We welcome you back inside our NEC Front Row Studios. I'm Craig D'Amico, once again filling in for Ralph Ventry, and this is NEC Women's Basketball on the Run. Well, time just flies fast when you're having fun, doesn't it? Here we are already at the halfway point of the season. Just one more month to go until we get to the madness that's March. Right now, let's take a look at where we stand. Through the first half of the league schedule, the Robert Morris Colonials have feasted on their competition like I feasted on wings during the Super Bowl this past weekend. The Colonials are a perfect 9-0 and in sole possession of first place following a victory last Saturday against FDU. The Colonials are the second NEC team to begin 9-0 in consecutive campaigns behind the St. Francis Red Flash, who started 3 straight years 9-0 from 02 to 04. The Colonials, who are in search of their 3rd straight regular season title and 4th in the last 6 years, have opened up a 3-game lead at the top of the standings. And believe it or not, it's time to start talking playoffs and playoff clinching scenarios, my favorite time of year. Robert Morris will already have a shot this weekend to become the first team to officially punch their ticket into the 2019 Northeast Conference Women's Basketball Tournament based on how their own results go against Bryant and Central, as well as from other results around the league. The Colonials can clinch the playoff spot for the 6th straight year. They're a team that's advanced to the championship game each of the last 5 seasons. Elsewhere, the St. Francis Brooklyn Terriers went on the road last weekend and came up big with an overtime win at Sacred Heart, helping to force a 3-way tie for second place, with the Terriers, Pioneers, and the reigning champion Red Flash all checking in at 6-3. With Sacred Heart on a 3-game slide, the Red Flash have made up a ton of ground over the last 2 weeks by winning 3 in a row. 2 games outside of the top 4 sit Mount St. Mary's, who is looking to return to the postseason this year for the 27th time in the last 29 years after missing out on the playoff party last year, the Bryant Bulldogs, and the Wagner Seahawks, who are looking for their first playoff berth since 2014. All 3 teams are tied at 4-5. The trio is only 1 game clear of Central Connecticut and Fairleigh Dickinson, who are both tied at 3-6 for the 8th and final playoff spot. She gets buckets, and this week we are talking about the incredible, the spectacular, the one and only Jessica Kovatch. On Saturday against the Mount, Red Flash Senior surpassed NEC Hall of Famer and former Wagner star Terrence Bailey for the most points scored by any student athlete who has ever laced them up and took to the court in the 38-year history of the Northeast Conference. Now, Kovatch reached the milestone on a first-quarter free throw, but once again managed to put on a shooting display on the ESPN3 national stage, making 7 field goals, 6 for 13 from 3-point range, and setting a new season high with 34 points. Kovatch continues to pace the league and sit top 10 in the nation, averaging just over 22 points per game on the year and nearly 25 points per game in conference play. Honorable mentions go out to the Mount's Michaela Harrison, who in that game against the Red Flash tied a program record with 8 made threes, and Central Connecticut State's Bruna Villa Artiguez, who hit perhaps the biggest shot of all when she banked home a 3-pointer at the buzzer to beat the Bulldogs. Artiguez finished with a career-high 13 points on 5 for 7 shooting and 3 for 4 from downtown. Let's take a pause for our Twitter timeout, and this week's tweet comes from @Leitchi Leitchi France, a women's basketball contributor for the Pick and Roll out in Australia. He was down under following along the St. Francis Brooklyn Sacred Heart game on Saturday and sent out this tweet. Boom! After going close on a number of occasions this season, Amy O'Neal finally gets her first triple-double, #AussieHoops. Amy O'Neal has been absolutely fantastic when it comes to running the Terrier offense. As the senior point guard, she's been like Cardi B, running it like cardio. This season, she has flirted with the triple-double feat several times. 9 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists in the Battle of Brooklyn against the Blackbirds, 29-9 the last game against Sacred Heart, 15-8-8 against Albany, and 12-11-9 against Loyola. In Saturday's overtime win against the Pioneers, O'Neal finally had herself that historic afternoon she's been looking for. 13 points, 13 rebounds, 12 assists in 44 minutes of action, recording the first triple-double in Terrier program history, the 12th in Northeast Conference history, and the second triple-double in the Northeast Conference this year. Stats amazing. And this week, we're focusing on the Robert Morris Colonials. On Saturday, the Colonials will look to match the 2016 Bryant Bulldogs for the 5th best start to conference play since the turn of the century at 10-0. Only 5 teams since 2000 have started 10-0, the 2016 Bulldogs, the 2003 Red Flash, and 3 teams who managed to run the table all the way through the entire conference season, earning perfect conference campaigns. The 2004 Red Flash, the 2009 Pioneers, and the 2013 Quinnipiac Bobcats. And now our game to watch, actually games to watch, as NEC basketball returns for the first time in a week to tip off the second half of the conference schedule with an ESPN 3 doubleheader. Action starts at noon on Saturday with myself and Pam Roker on the call in Fairfield as the Sacred Heart Pioneers host Mount St. Mary's. These are 2 teams who had a ton of momentum, lost it, and are now trying to get it back. Sacred Heart started 6-0 but have lost their last 3. Mount had won 3 straight and 4 of 5 before falling at home last weekend to SFU. After averaging 68 points on 41% shooting during their 6-game win streak to start conference play, the Pioneers have only managed about 56 points on 33% shooting during this current 3-game skid. They'll be looking to move quicker and more efficiently against a Mount team that currently leads the NEC with nearly 73 possessions per 40 minutes. The game will also feature 2 NEC Player of the Year candidates in Kat Haynes and Juliette Lawless going head-to-head. And speaking about potential award candidates, be sure to check out this week's edition of the NEC Fast Break column on the NEC Overtime blog at NECOvertime.com, where we break down a bunch of top award candidates here at the season's midway point. Then at 7 p.m., an old rivalry is renewed in the Keystone State as the Bryant Bulldogs take on the Robert Morris Colonials. When they last met back in January, Sydney Holloway's game-tying 3-point attempt just rimmed out as time expired to give the Colonials the win. Robert Morris will be shooting for that 10-0 mark we mentioned earlier, while the Bulldogs will be looking to bounce back after their heartbreaker in New Britain last weekend. It'll be a full Saturday and Monday schedule of NEC action this week, with all games available free of charge on NEC Front Row. Now we're off next week. We'll be back on Friday, February 22nd for the stretch run. So for now, I'm Craig D'Amico, and this has been NEC Women's Basketball on the Run.